Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here, and it's time for the youorns 10-minute take on Watford 3 and Norwich City 2 at the Vic. Yes, indeed, it was a crazy game at Vicarage Road on this particular night, a night where you really thought Watford had completely lost their bearings the first 10 to 12 minutes. In fact, the first 20 minutes of the game, Watford seemed to me was still recovering, was still trying to recover from the 2-0 defeat they had on Saturday against Leicester City at the King Power. This was a Watford team who play very well against Norwich usually, have lost just once in their last God knows how many games against them. And like the King Power, where Watford can't seem to get any kind of win, Norwich City really can't seem to get any kind of win at all against Watford, especially at Vicarage Road, although ironically, that was the place that they last beat Watford a few short years ago. But that was not to be the case in the end, but at the beginning of the game, it looked like it would be the case. It looked like Norwich were going to go on their way to a victory. A team that struggled away from home, as Norwich have this season, looked very odds on in this game. But the good news for Watford is that it was way too early to start writing them off. Just 2 minutes in, Norwich made a good effort of trying to do so. An unmarked header, two Norwich players jumping up for the ball, unmarked. One of them heads into the back of the net from close range. A very inauspicious start to the game for Watford, and it would get worse just 10 minutes later as Norwich would double their lead. A mistake, a really poor pass from Ryan Porteous in the defense, went straight to a Norwich player who then passed to a waiting Norwich player who absolutely blasted the ball from about 23 yards out, something like that, past Ben Hamer into the roof of the net. And I thought Ben Hamer perhaps could have done better. Unfortunately, he did not, and Watford did not, and they were down 2-0 inside 12 minutes. Yes, that's how bad it got for Watford. But Watford somehow dug deep, found the character against the Norwich side, who, by the way, for the 2-goal lead that they had, they weren't really that good. Let's be honest. It was a rather false scoreline, at least it turned out to be. Norwich weren't that good. Watford just weren't at the races. And I think it really showed, but they found themselves and they came to the start line at the half-hour mark when Kone, who could have scored just literally a few moments before, scored his first goal in a Watford shirt, giving Watford a chance, halving the arrears at 2-1. And that was a very important goal that seemed to galvanize Watford and spark them on, because really about 2.5 minutes later, it was Rajovic scoring the all-important second to make it a 2-2 game. And it was game on. Rajovic, I think that's his 6th goal of the season or thereabouts. And he scoring a very important goal there. And he headed the ball into an empty net, really from about a yard or two out. And that made it 2-2. And so it looked as if the game was going to absolutely burst to life in the second half. And I had a feeling that this game was going to remind me very much of the game against West Bromwich Albion earlier this season, when Watford, in a frenetic 23 minutes, scored twice, but not before West Bromwich Albion took a 2-1 lead after Watford had scored through Tom Ince. You remember that game from a few short months ago this season at the Vic. Well, it wasn't quite to be like that this time around, because Watford dominated the second half the way that Leicester dominated the second half on Saturday against us. And Watford put on a clinic against the Norwich side, who looked shell-shocked at the Watford revival. Those 2 goals in 3.5 minutes, just absolutely stunning Norwich into silence. They didn't do anything in the second half until very late on, where they looked a genuine threat. And you had wondered where on earth that was for the previous, 65, 75, 85 minutes. It was a very strange game, I think, particularly from a Norwich perspective. If you're a Norwich fan watching this, you'd probably think, what on earth happened to your team? The team did not show up in this game for much of it after they scored those 2 goals, which really were gifts from Watford, poor defending and sloppy play. And so Norwich really were not good value for that lead, but Watford were good value for character, because that's what we saw from Watford tonight, a character display to dig deep, to come from behind, and to never give in and keep going, even after Watford got the 3rd goal from Asprilla. Really good technique and skill off of a good shot from West Hook that was really dipping and wickedly spinning from the goalkeeper, who only could parry it. That was the key. And up stepped Asprilla, just the way that Jamie Vardy did, and quickest on the draw. He actually rounded the goalkeeper Great bit of skill from Asprilla, and then put the ball back on his left foot and then stabbed it home with his right foot. That was an excellent skill. It's not an easy thing to do when you've got a goalkeeper rushing at you. He could have kicked the ball off of himself, or he could have lost control of it. But Asprilla was really fleet-footed and had a lot of skill and put the ball in well composed. A great goal from Asprilla. I think that's his second goal in a Watford shirt, maybe his second or his third goal in a Watford shirt. And the bottom line is that Asprilla, you could call him the man of the match, but a lot of people would say Jake Livermore, certainly, or Kone. I thought Kone was outstanding tonight in this game, as was Livermore in the midfield role, his holding role. He was very good indeed, made everybody better, made the movement better in the middle of the park as well, and really kept Norwich from doing much. That's why Norwich were invisible for a lot of this game, because in no small part to Jake Livermore and what he anchored in that midfield. So you definitely have to understand that he will get a lot of plaudits for a man of the match shout. But as far as I'm concerned, this was a team effort as well. Kone was outstanding. He'd be my choice for man of the match. But who would your choice be? I really do think that Kone got it tonight, but Livermore certainly, I would not be surprised that he did do well. But it was a team effort in the end, because all of these lads found a way to win, and they won together as a team. They built character and they built identity, and that's no small part due to the manager himself, Vali Schmal, who I think now has to start getting some credit here. He certainly has put forth an identity in this team, and since the game against Sunderland, when he locked those players for over an hour plus, maybe an hour and a half after the final whistle in that Jess dressing room, and asked them, what went wrong. Every single one of them were asked that, and they had to give an answer in front of everyone. Since then, Watford have lost just once, in my recollection. The one game they lost, I think, was the game against Leicester. I don't think they lost any others in that time frame. And Watford tonight showed you the character that you're going to need if you have any deeper aspirations this season. And so, in this game, a Watford side that never gave up, a Watford side that dominated the second half, and a Watford side that, when all was said and done, they got the win. And also Ben Hamer, who didn't have a great game, didn't have a lot to do. And of course, the second goal he may have been able to do something about, but didn't. He made a big save late on in the game that kept the game at 3-2 for Watford. So certainly a special shout for Ben Hamer with the save. And look, call it what you will, but he's had two games in goal for Watford in the championship this season, and they've both been Watford wins. Coincidence? Well, a win is a win, and the win is the thing. This has been the YouOrns 10-minute take.